The courtroom thought it had seen drama, but they weren't ready for what Malaysia Pargo pulled out next. As silence settled, Malaysia stood up cold, steady, and deadly calm. With a half smile creeping across her lips, she looked the judge dead in the eye and said, "Your Honor, I have one more truth to unveil. Let's stop playing pretend." The judge nodded, and then, boom. Doug Christie's jailhouse voice flooded the room like poison gas. "Let Jackie think what she wants. She was always a cover, the real game was mine. And I played it in theater." You could feel it, the air shifted, people gasped. Reporters dropped their pens. Even the bass jaw clenched, but it wasn't over. Malaysia, play again. And this time it was Doug whispering to a mystery woman. "Once I get Jackie's money in my hands, it's just you and me, babe. We vanish." That's when Jackie Christie lost it. She stood up, eyes burning, fists shaking. "Used me. You lied under my roof. My marriage, my life. It was a scam." She slammed the desk so hard the microphone is rattled. The courtroom wasn't witnessing a breakdown, it was a war cry. And Malaysia, she didn't blink. Because in that moment, she didn't just expose Amin. She burned down his kingdom. Now the whole world is watching. And Doug, he's not just in jail anymore, he's on fire. The courtroom didn't know what hit him. Just moments after the judge called for a recess, expecting a pause in the case, Malaysia Pargo stepped forward, calm on the surface, but you could feel the storm brewing behind her eyes. She didn't come to play fair. She came with fire, and when she looked the judge dead in the face and said, "Permission to present new evidence." Nobody expected what was coming. The judge bare-linned and Malaysia pulled out her phone. "Put it on speaker," the prosecutor ordered. Sensing something seismic, a click, static, and then his voice, Doug Christie from inside jail tucking. Like he'd never be caught. "Yoke no Jackie's, just a brand, a front. And never loved her, she was my cover. She gave me access, fame, money, networks. But the real moves, those I made with you, baby." The room froze. Gasps. Reporters scrambling for their recorders, the court stenographers hands trembling, but it was Jackie Christie's face, that tight, horrified freeze that silenced the room more than anything. Malaysia glanced at her once, cold, almost pitiful. Then she pressed play again. "Doug, she thinks I'm coming back for her. Hell no. Once the check clears, I'm disappearing. She can keep the wife, but that bank account, it's mine." The courtroom turned into a pressure cooker. Jackie stood up, fists clenched, jaw shaking. "You?" She tried to scream, but nothing came out. Just rage. Silent, burning rage. Doug's voice continued. This time, even uglier. "You know how I keep her quiet. I feed her lies, give her little promises, fake tears. She loves drama. So I give her a script." Malaysia didn't flinch. She tapped Toth's next file. New voice. Doug again. But this time he's laughing with Simone, a woman. He calls her babe, tells her to hold tight. Jackie's crying again must have read that fake birthday card I wrote. Told her I miss her. Meanwhile, I'm laid up with you. That broke Jackie. She charged toward Malaysia. Security barely holding her back. "You lying snake." Jackie screamed, face twisted with betrayal. "You manipulated me. You played me. You was said," but Malaysia stood still, ice cold, calculated. Her reply cut like a knife. "Don't, Jackie. He used all of us. I just finally stopped pretending." The judge banged the gavel, shouting for order, but it was too late. The courtroom had turned into a battlefield of buried, loosened, raw humiliation. Doug Christie, one seethed image of loyalty, the poster husband, had been exposed for what had truly was a two-faced manipulator. How weaponized love and trust to build a kingdom of deceit. Malaysia's evidence didn't stop at the calls. She pulled out a series of transaction receipts. Payments made from Jackie's business accounts to a private account registered Donder Christina Maddox. A name no one recognized until Malaysia zoomed in on Afito, the same woman from Doug's calls. "Your husband was funneling your money to his mistress," Malaysia said flatly, "and used your company credit card to pay for her new car." Jackie collapsed into her chair. She was shaking. Reporters outside were already tweeting. Breaking. Malaysia Pargo drops audio proof of Doug Christie's betrayal in court funds. Mistresses and lies exposed. The judge stared at Malaysia. "There are more recordings." Malaysia nodded. 12 more. And to include Doug discussing how to hide assets from Jackie before the divorce even began. Jackie stood again, this time not to scream, but to speak. Her voice was cracked, hollow, but filled with a mother's fury. "You made me give up everything for you. My career, my name. I was loyal, blind, and you. You were writing love letters to another woman while sitting in jail. Malaysia's next move shattered what was left. Shay handed the court clerk a print. Doug Christie's prison confession, recorded during a monitored phone call where he admitted to staging rehab story, faking emotional relapses, and planting rumors to control Jackie's public image. He knew the fans loved a comeback, Malaysia explained. So, he gave them one, even if it meant destroying Jackie piece by piece. The judge had no choice but to adjourn the session early, citing emotional overload and safety concerns. But Malaysia won. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed like wildfire. Malaysia stepped up to the podium, not as a reality star, but as a woman who had watched her sister suffer in silence, who had been silenced herself too many times. And HOA's now done letting Doug Christie lie his way into sympathy. I didn't destroy Jackie, she said, steady but forceful. I did this because Shadow curves to know the truth. Doug isn't Amen, he's a shadow, a user, and today, that shadow got dragged into the light. The internet exploded. Clips of the jail calls hit TikTok within hours. Du's voice saying, "She was just my cover act," up 5 million views in one night. Celebrities started weighing in. Tamar Braxton, "I knew something was off with Doug. Prayers for Jackie Chile." Even VH1 posted a cryptic tweet, "Some truths are louder than fiction." Jackie, Shutterbutt somehow still standing, issued a brief statement later that night. "I may have loved a lie, but I will never again be silent for it." But the real moment came when Doug's attorney tried to call Malaysia the next morning to ask her to stop releasing tapes. She posted the collage to Instagram, captioned, "Too late, the world deserves to hear it all." And the world, oh, it was listening, and it was done with Doug Christie. The next morning, Jackie's face was everywhere. News tickers ran headlines like, "Jackie Christie betrayed. Malaysia drops bombshell tapes." TMZ had already staged a supercut of Doug's worst mints from those audio clips. And blogs weren't pulling any punches. But while the world was still trying to catch its breath, Malaysia wasn't done. She showed up to court again. No tears, no emotion, just fire in her eyes, and more evidence in her purse. And this time, she didn't come alone, walking 3 steps behind. Her was a tall woman in a black trench coat and dark shades. No one recognized her at first, but the moment she pulled her hood back, gasps erupted across the room. It was Chantal Christie, Jackie's daughter. The daughter Woe had vanished from the spotlight after being caught in the middle of her Martha and Doug's toxic mess. The daughter who'd stayed silent for years until now, Chantal took the witness stand, removed her glasses, and said 6 words that made Jackie crumble in her care. "I don't believe Doug is my father." The courtroom lost its mind. Jackie's head snapped up, her lips bald. What? What did you just say? But Chantal wasn't here to sugarcoat. She was here to burn. I overheard you and Annie talking about it when I was 14. You said Doug doesn't need to know the truth. Hell already treats her better than her real father ever would. Dead silence, not a pin dropped, not a breath taken. Chantal's voice cracked, but her words never stopped. And when I asked Yao about it, you slapped me and said to never bring it up again. So, I didn't. It stayed quiet while Doug paraded around acting like a savior while you pretended we're some picture-perfect family. And no, look at us torn apart because off-screts you chose to bury. Jackie Trito, stand Chantal, please. Not here. No snapped Yo. Don't get to ask for silence now. You don't get to protect the lie after it's already ruined us. The judge tried to intervene, but it was pointless. The dam had broken, Chantal continued, voice shaking but loud. I took a DNA test 6 months ago. I matched with a man named Harold Skinner, a man who, guess what, had a brief relationship with you in the summer of '98. Sound familiar? Jackie says, filled with tears. That was before Doug and I got serious. Chantal's laugh was hollow. Exactly. And that's when I happened. But you couldn't handle the truth. So you gave Doug the father role and buried everything else. You robbed him of my identity just to keep up your brand. Social media went nuclear. Hashtag Chantal Christie started trending in under 10 minutes. Comment section sex blood. Wait, so Doug raised a daughter that wasn't even his? Jackie been hiding truth from everybody, even her own child. Malaysia and Chantal just ended a legacy in 24 hours flat. But the Hummer hadn't dropped yet because Malaysia.com, as ever, reached into her file and pulled out another transcript. This one, a prison visitor log showing that Jackie had secretly visited Doug a week before the trial started. Where are you doing? Jackie, Malaysia said, getting your story straight or offering him hush money to play dumb in court. Jackie's face drained. No, that's not. I was trying to get him to come clean. Oh really? Malaysia snapped. Because this, she held up a mini recording device, says otherwise. She played the audio, Jackie's voice. "If you say I forced Joe into rehab, the public will forgive you. Just let me handle the narrative. I've adoned it before," Doug's voice. "So, same script, different season. Jackie, exactly. Play the villain. Get their redemption arc. You'll be back on TV in a year. Trust me, that was the final straw." The courtroom erupted. Even the judge, who had been mostly patient, slammed his gavel so hard it echoed across the walls. "Enough," he shouted. "This is no longer a custody battle. This is a full-blown conspiracy circus." Jackie looked like she'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Her lies had been caught. Her daughter had walked away. And thievery men she'd tried to protect had turned her into a public punchline. Buddha's reporters swarmed the building and fans outside chanted. Jackie's canned Malaysia delivered one final blow. Shep pulled out the original marriage certificate, and guess what? It had been. Doug had secretly removed Jackie's name from several joint holdings 2 years ago. Property, stocks, retirement accounts. She'd been living in a fantasy marriage while Doug was legally unbinding himself in secret. Malaysia's voice dripped with venom as held up the document. "You weren't just lied to Jackie. You were delirist. He played you all smiling in your face. And now you're broke, betrayed, and exposed. All because you couldn't stop controlling the narrative." Jackie tried to speak, but her voice was gone. Judge ended the session abruptly, declaring the courtroom a legal disaster zone and warning all parties to prepare for federal investigations into document tampering and financial fraud. And Chantel didn't look back. She walked straight out the courtroom, past the paparazzi, and into a waiting car. Malaysia followed. No tears, no drama, just acquiescent nod to the chaos she left behind. By the end of the day, VH1 suspended all episodes involving Jackie Christie. Sponsors pulled out, and Jackie, she went home to a house she no longer owned. A house legally transferred to Doug 6 months bare. The divorce was ever filed. This wasn't just betrayal. This was destruction by design. Doug played the long game and Jackie lost of everything. Jackie didn't speak to Tanyan for 3 days. Not her publicist, not her legal team. Not even her so-called best friends in the industry, the ones who used to tag her in every red carpet photo and repost her cooking videos like she was royalty. Nathy ghosted her like she had a disease. Her phone had turned into a graveyard of missed calls and cold texts. The final nail, a letter from VH1 delivered to her gate. Effective immediately. All future production involving Jackie Christie is hereby terminated. Any attempts to re-enter the premises of VH1 studios will be treated as trespassing. Trespassing. The same woman who built the ratings, the same woman who sold drama on a silver platter for over a decade, had just been erased. And it wasn't over yet. Malaysia wasn't done cleaning house. The very next morning, Malaysia stood in front of the same courthouse steps that Jackie used to strut across like a queen and dropped a live statement. So savage, so bulletproof. Even Jackie's lawyers didn't know how to respond. Jackie Christie thought she could control the story. She thought she could control people, and she thought she could hide behind fame and edited clips. But what she couldn't control was truth. And now it's exposed to her like a bad fist lift in the sun. The crowd outside of the court erupted. Some screamed, some clapped, and some just stood there, jaws wide open. Malaysia continued. Shedrudged her husband, lied to her daughter, manipulated her friends, and worst of all, she tried to erase my voice when I finally decided to speak. The press started shouting questions. But Malaysia didn't flinch. She didn't just break Doug. She broke Chantel Chamade. Her questioned her own identity. She used trauma like a marketing strategy, and I refuse to let women like that keep hiding behind glam squads on green screens. Inside the courthouse, Jackie was watching the whole thing unfold on live feed. Her hands trembling, her nails chewed down to the skin. She thought Malaysia would stop, that the courtroom chaos would by now, but Malaysia was just getting started because later that evening, a new drop shook the internet. A private therapy session leaked. Jackie sitting across from a marriage counselor runkingly being recorded saying few words. Sometimes you have to create actresses to control the outcome. If Duff is to be the villain, then so be it. The backlash was brutal. She wanted Doug to look like a monster. She doesn't need a divorce, she needs a lifetime ban. The very next day, Doug's ex-girlfriend from 2005, a woman named Regina Hayes, stepped forward with her own story. Apparently, she and Doug briefly rekindled things during a separation period. And guess who showed up unannounced to her house with academic order and a fake letter from the police? Jackie. Regina's statement was cold and clear. She was always obsessed with controlling every man in her life, even if it meant stalking, lying, or faking a mental health crisis. Doug didn't stand a chance. Now, the court had no choice but to expand the case. What began as a simple custody battle had now turned into a multi-level legal war involving alleged drugging, fraudulent therapy claims, invasion of privacy, potential media tampering, financial manipulation, perjury, and the judge. He wasn't having it. He declared the case a judicial emergency, ordering a full forensic audit into Jackie's finances, property, history, and PR from activity over the past 5 years. Her accounts were frozen, her assets locked, and her biggest weapon, her public image, shattered into dust. But that final confrontation, it didn't happen. On court, it happened in a dark hallway behind the press room with no cameras, no reporters, just Jackie and Malaysia face to face. Jackie, was all this really worth it to you? Humiliating Mel like this? Malaysia, you humiliating yourself. I just gave the world their sipes. Jackie stepped forward, her voice trembling. You don't understand what I've had to survive. What I've had to build just to stay visible in this mystery. But Malaysia didn't blink. Her tone didn't soften. She leaned in and said the one sentence that made Jackie go silent for the first time in years. You were never building a legacy. You were building a prison. And now, you're relicked inside it. Jackie's breath, her mouth opened, then closed. No defense, no clever spin, no producer to edit the footage. Just silence. BAs. The truth had finally caught up to her, and it hit harder than any storyline she ever created. By the end of the week, Doug officially filed a restraining order. Chantel legally changed her last name. VH1 replaced Jackie's face on all promotional material with Malaysia's. Jackie's brand collaborations were cancelled and Massoned, a full criminal probe into Jackie's use of unauthorized medication had begun. From Queen into cautionary tale, the Jackie Christie empire had collapsed under its own weight. And Malaysia shouldn't throw a party. She didn't post a petty caption. She just walked away like a woman who knew the war was over, Ansh had won. So now, the truth is out. No more spin. No more reality TV cover dash-ups. No more staged apologies behind glamour cup and designer tears. What just happened in that courtroom wasn't a plot twist. It was a full-blown demolition of everything Jackie Christie thought she controlled. Doug's jail calls weren't just gossip. They were confessions. Confessions that tore through Jackie's carefully crafted image like a blade. She was just a cover for my career. Really, Doug? You used her and strung her along while whispering sweet lies to another woman behind bars. And Jackie. She broke not because of heartbreak, but because her empire Ofago finally collapsed. She wasn't betrayed, she was exposed. And Malaysia, she didn't just drop receipts, she dropped justice. For every woman silenced in the name of a brand. For every truth buried under red carpet appearances and fake healing retreats, she came for blood and got it. This wasn't just a scandal, this was a retconning. So now it's your move. What side are you on? Are you riding with the exposed or the exposers? Are you hurrah for damage control or the damn truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments, blow it up, call it out. And if you want more of this raw, unfiltered fire, hit that subscribe button. Smash the bell icon. Beckos over here. We don't tell story esto. Protect the guilty. We tear the mask off and let the world watch them burn.